Hey, it's Liron again, and I'm back with another drawing lesson. Today we'll be drawing a bulldozer. New intro, did you like? I hope you did. Hey, it's Liron again, and I'm back with another drawing lesson. Today we'll be drawing a bulldozer. Now, we're gonna start by drawing the guidelines. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the guideline in time lapse because I don't wanna consume a lot of time for the basic lines, and then we'll continue and I'll talk about what I've done and we'll draw the rest of the bulldozer. Okay, let's begin. Okay, we're done with the guidelines. What we did so far is very simple. I drew three horizontal lines. These three are evenly spaced, and the last one is a little has a little larger distance. Okay, so this distance is about this one, and this is slightly bigger. And finally, we have one vertical line that crosses these three first horizontal lines. Next, what we want to do is begin indicating the main body of the bulldozer. So we'll begin by making this kind of line that's going diagonally and somewhere on the left side of this line, and then we're gonna drop a vertical line like this. Okay, so follow me here. It's gonna be not too complicated, but you need to kind of get this one right. And remember, the guidelines are the simplest but also the most important parts, because all the rest of the lines and the art is gonna be based on them. Okay, now I'm starting to indicate what we call the house, okay, the cabin of the driver. So first line here, second one is near the center where this vertical line is. And finally we move to the front part of the bulldozer, draw one diagonal line like this and add another one. So it's sort of an open triangle here. Next is very simple. We're going to close off the roof. Now, when drawing lines like this, try to keep it very light. You don't want to go in and press too hard on the pencil, because that way you'll have a hard time later on erasing. Now, this is slightly more complex, so bear with me. We're going to draw the blade, the front blade. Try, and when you have more complex shapes, try and find try and compare the shapes. So here we have one horizontal line, and this line is about 1/3 of this one's length. These are the things you want to look out for in order to draw this correctly: the lengths and the angles. If you make sure that all your angles and the lengths are correct, even the more complex stuff, you know, you'll do fine. And we finish the blade. This doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure it's accurate, it's correct, it's in its place. Everything is in its place. Okay, now I'm gonna start closing off the house. This is actually where the door is gonna come, so this line will be erased eventually. It's just a guideline. And you know, a lot of people just want to get straight to the final lines, when in reality, a lot of, I don't want to say all of the seasoned artists, but I do believe a lot of artists use guidelines a lot. Even professional, like manga. I really love manga. I used to read a lot of manga back in the day. Today, less, because I don't have time. But I used to read a lot of Naruto and all sorts of mangas. And A lot of the manga artists also use tons of guidelines. You'll be surprised. Okay, now this part is kind of tricky. We want to create this sort of a beam. Now I know the light might obstruct some of what I'm drawing, but you'll soon see when I move my hand. We have this sort of a beam that goes all across. And a screw. Here it is. There we go. Now I'm gonna kick it into time-lapse a bit, and so this video isn't like painfully long, and I'll come back and explain what I've done. Okay, and I'm back. Now what I've done basically is add some details to the front part of the bulldozer, and of course add the I forgot I forgot this part's name. Yeah. Tracks. That's right, tracks. I added the tracks and some details inside the tracks. And now we'll begin drawing the windows for the house. What we want to do is draw the windows, draw some more details to the tracks, and we're basically done, and we can begin inking this thing. This part it can be simple if you're smart. You know, look at this this line, make sure this one is parallel, and also make sure this one is parallel to this one, and this one is not parallel to this one, as well as this one. So just try and look for things that can help you place the lines correctly, and you know, if one line is a bit off, it's okay. Do your best. This is the door. This is gonna be the door. And now for the window. You can make it a bit smaller or larger, depending on how much sun you want the guy sitting inside to have. I'm generous, so I'm gonna do it pretty big. Great, we are almost done, believe it or not. I want to add this sort of a pipe thing you see in a lot of engineering vehicles. And I'm gonna add the details for the tracks in time-lapse again, because it's kind of repetitive, and I'll be back soon and we'll start inking this thing. So see you soon. Alright, I've added the spikes to the tracks, and now we basically finished drawing. Now it's time to ink. Now the inking process is something I want to do in time-lapse as well, and maybe I'll show some of it in real time. So let's begin. I'm using a Micron Pigma 08. Let's see how it goes. I'll be back soon. Okay, a quick tip I want to share with you guys is for drawing long lines like this one using a pen. Okay, so inking is a challenge in and out itself. Now, for drawing long lines, you'll find that your hand is limited. If you're using only a flick of the wrist, your hand will be limited in the distance it can cover. So what I advise you to do is move the entire arm from your shoulder, and that way you can go on and on and on and on and on and get this line. Just a quick tip I wanted to share. Now this drawing includes a lot of straight long lines. You know, for this kind of work, feel free to use a ruler. I didn't, because I just don't have one handy and I didn't want to pause the video or anything, and I can get straight lines okay. Not necessarily, this is not necessarily the best of my line works, but that's fine because we're gonna color this thing soon. I also don't want to add too many. Oh, there you go, I screwed up a little here. I don't want to add too many details because the color is gonna do most of the work. Another quick tip for inking is if you're right-handed, ink from left to right. I believe I already shared this advice in a previous video. If you're left-handed, go from right to left. The reason for this is that you want to minimize the chance of you going over something you already drew and smearing it off all over the paper. It can suck, trust me. I've been there. Now, back in the day, I used to draw, as I mentioned earlier, I loved manga, and I used to draw a little manga, and I have a nib pen here. I'll show it to you in another video. And inking with a nib pen can be very, very challenging. It's the type of pen that you dip in ink. Now, I used to struggle a lot with it until I understood how to work with it, and what I learned really helped me with just using this type of pens, the regular ones. And what I discovered is that, and this is, you know, this is a well-known fact. It's a pretty well-established fact that if you pull quick lines, if you work quickly with the ink, the result will look much better. It's not, again, not something that I invented. It's a lot of other people talk about it, and yeah, it's, if you'll notice that when you go like this and you get a quick line in, it's much better than going like this, trying to make it extremely accurate. There's something in the spontaneity of making a quick line that really gives it a dynamic, cool look. Mark really talks about it a lot. Okay, now I want to just get this one line that I forgot in here. Good. Now this thing is ready, this one as well. This thing is basically ready to be inked, to be colored, rather. So I'm gonna start coloring, and I'll begin with time-lapse, and if there's something interesting, I'll pause the video and I'll talk to you about what I'm doing. I'll explain more. So I'll get the colors and I'll be back really soon. Okay, so I mixed some new colors and I got a darker tone, so I said, why not, let's go over the first layer with the darker tone and start shading things up. A little of what I've done. So there's a lot of orange here, and this is what happens when you mess with construction vehicles and engineering vehicles. Now, I apply the first layer to this bulldozer and it dried up, and now I'm going over it with a second layer that is a bit darker than the first one. I'm going to shade it, assuming the light comes from above, and I'm going to use a slightly darker orange tone to shade it. Now, what I usually do is I apply a first orange layer, then another layer of a different color, and so on and so forth, and then I go back in the same order to the layers and apply the second one. So I'll work with orange and black, and then again orange and black. If I had a third color, it would be orange, black, blue, and then again back to orange, and then black, and then blue. This allows the layers some time to dry. But this time I mixed things up a little bit, and that's fine, you know. It's good to sometimes try new things. Now, you may have noticed that earlier when I painted, there was a big blob of water, and I played with it. I kind of smeared it around. This is what you want to do. You want to make sure you don't have any blobs of any sort, because when they dry up it looks bad. You can see there was a blotch of paint, and it doesn't look as good as it could. Just adding the final touches, and I think we can move on to the black layer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna begin in time-lapse, and then I'm gonna continue to talk about what I've done. Just wanted to pause for a second and show you. Okay, so here I have a big blob of black. I don't want it to stay like this, so I kind of play with it around and I smear it. As well as here, you see, I don't want to leave those there. Because they're gonna dry up strange, and it's gonna be much darker than the rest of the tones. So I spread them out equally along all the surface. This is what I was talking about a second ago. With the black tone, I find that I personally have to be a little more careful. And by the way, I'm going to make a separate video on watercolors, but for now what I want you to focus is on the shading itself, on where I place the shadows, where the light areas are, and for next time we'll discuss specific, more in-depth techniques for watercolors. For now, just understand the gist of the shading I'm doing here. Now I'm using quite a thin brush. It's a number 6. When you need to cover larger areas, I used to, when I just began working with watercolors not that long time ago, I used to use this brush for everything, and then I realized that it's way too small to cover larger areas. So if I had to like cover a whole area the size of this bulldozer, it's really impractical. So I switched to an 8 or a 10. But for this type of a drawing, it's good. This one is good. Now you'll notice there is a strong difference in tone between this black and this black. What I do in this case is sort of blend it in, or go over the lighter tone and darken it a bit. If you want to blend it, you can take a little bit of water in your brush, a very small quantity, and then just go over it and kind of blend it in. And if you have this big blob that you want to get rid of, grab a piece of tissue and just dab it away. Now while we're at it, let's shade this part here, because I see it's kind of dried quickly and I can go in already with a second layer. This is not what I'll do usually, but I see that I can afford to do it now. Let me kick it into time-lapse and I'll do the shading and I'll show you what I've done. Okay, so what I've done here is I decided that the light comes from the left side, and because we have this sort of an angle in the structure, so as you can see my lighting comes from there and this side is darker. So exactly the same thing happens here. There's a slight angle and it causes this side to become darker. The last thing we want to do is create the windows for this. So what I'm doing now is mixing blue color. I'm going to use 2 tones of blue colors. Let me show you. I'll be mixing this bright one and a slightly darker one together here. And I'm going to use a very light tone of this, very bright tone of this color. Mix in a lot of water. And before I'll apply it, I'll first draw it on a test paper I have here, and I'll also get rid of some of the color so I don't get a big blotch in the beginning. Okay, so let me do this in time-lapse, and I'll be back really soon. See you. Okay, I'm back. What I've done here basically is I created the blue tone for the windows, and because I know that the more I draw, the more I paint, the tone becomes brighter, I begin with the darker area, which is this one, as you've seen with the black tone. And then when the color started drying and becoming a little lighter, I went to this window, which is brighter, just like this side is brighter. And I also, you may have noticed that I finished on the upper part. The reason is that the upper part can be a little darker, like here you see it pretty well, here less, because there is shade coming from the fact that the window is indented. So the sunlight comes from the top, and this part becomes a little bit darker. I've made some mistakes here and there, you know. It's okay, it's not the most perfect of creations, but it looks pretty good, I think, and gives you a good idea of how to draw, ink, and color something like this, like a bulldozer. And you can apply what you've seen here for any vehicle or any other thing you want to draw. So I want to wish you good luck. I really hope you learned something new here. And please subscribe to my channel, comment, like, whatever you can do. I really appreciate it. And if you want to be really generous, go check out my book. I'll include a link in the description below. And have an awesome day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.